वक्त तो वक्त तुम्हारी कदर करेगा।
मीटिंग का टाइम अर्जुन ने ही दिया था और वो
Feel your heart quicken, the strength flow.
Hello everyone, my name is Karim Oushusha. I'm senior lighting artist, and today I'm gonna show you the way you can improve your light and optimize your light for video games. There is many things we're gonna learn it today, like the pixel intensity or even the shadow map, and also we're gonna talk about how you can optimize your light, how you can get your light ready and the scene ready for a 60 fps or more. Because the previous videos I'm always show you how to can get cinematic lighting, but there is many people they asked me if we can make a video specific for baked light and the game lighting. There is two ways we're gonna make this light. The first one, it's the old school, which is gonna use the baked light, and the second one maybe it's gonna be in the next video for how to use the mega light. Because mega light now you can turn on all your light with all the shadow, and it's gonna running for 60 fps or the double. Even sometimes you can really run your game with 120 when you use mega light. But many of artists it doesn't has the good graphic card to get this latest version of Unreal Engine, and some people they still using the old version of Unreal Engine. So we're gonna talk about the basics. So let's get started. The first thing, as you can see here, everything here is picked, right? So I have many light picked, and we're gonna see what is the step I have to do to get this light. So what I'm gonna do, I will hide all the light here, right? And we can check first thing world setting, all right? And when you open world setting, if you have any maps, you see I have this map, for example, this from light maps, but we can keep it for now, that's fine. So it's not gonna be a problem, so we will keep it now.
I can teach you code in Python in just 30 days, even if you've never written a single line of code before. How? Simple.
Hello everyone, today like this, and we're gonna use this scene. You can download it from Fab, and I'm gonna leave the link below. Okay, also we're gonna learn many things today, how you can start way we are. As you can see here, everything here looks natural, okay, and this is the way we are looking for. And there is many things we're gonna learn it here. Is not only about the light, it's easy to add the lights, but there is, if you are working in the game, there is big secret. It's not a secret, but it's a rule for how you can lead the player from point A to point B. So for example, if you have a player, he start the level from here, and you want the player to go to exit to this way. So how you can lead the player to go there? And there is something between he has to do. For example, it's discover. So he want to discover something, or he want to pick, you want him to pick this paper and start to reading, or there is a additional box here, he has to open it to take weapon or anything. So how you can do this, because the player he doesn't really know, maybe this warehouse it's too large or too big, so you want him to just bring the attention to go this way. I'm gonna show you exactly what you can do with the blueprint. So the first thing, I'm gonna hide all the lights and start a new level, and here let's say night, drag it and drop here, so we have no light. The first step, I am gonna add the skylights. If you remember, we always talk about the first thing you have to add the global illumination lights, which is the sky. So the skylights, if you ever try to put the light here, it will never be effective. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I will change to cube map. Okay, and here I will add this daylight, which is gonna give me some nice light in the like the moonlight, or I'm gonna fake the moonlight. We'll put this value to 0.5. I don't need it more. The cube map resolution, maybe 1K, it's enough. So now everything is bright. So I'm gonna add post-processing and go infinity. And from the exposure, the first step, we're gonna tweak the exposure.
for you today on playing the game for a while. You don't really need all this information popping up primary objective or we need to reload. This just makes it so when you're just walking around and doing stuff, you don't have that just constantly on your screen.
Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. The size of, and now that's all the code right now. Let's go something. All these games are top tier. They're all made with.
I'm going to show you how to absolutely tank your game's performance and how to fix it in your Unreal Engine game. Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Taken Grace, and I make Unreal Engine tutorials and videos like this one. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to become a better game dev, hit the subscribe button, join the community down below here. So UI is a major component in your game, and one thing that you need to remember is that it's generally always loaded into memory and visible for the most part. And look, there's a lot of UI tutorials out there that are teaching you a few bad things, and I just want to show you guys what those are and how to basically fix those. And we're going to do that in this video here, so let's get started here. So
एक वीडियो में ऐसे इफेक्ट्स कैसे ऐड करते हैं, थीम के अकॉर्डिंग बैकग्राउंड कैसे चेंज करते हैं.
If you want your Unreal Engine menus to look professional, you need clean, responsive tabs that switch pages instantly. Here is what we are creating today. A polished tab window with by using a widget color and opacity panel and change the color to the one. I've had a request on how to make a widget that looks like a liquid or glass style transparent blurry window. So I decided to create this simple, fast and easy. This is Rumbud. Today we're looking at Tile View, a powerful way to organize items in a grid layout. You can use it for inventories, galleries, or any UI that needs a flexible grid. Subscribe for practical Unreal Engine UI tutorials. Go to your current. Add a canvas panel as the root. You'll see your array of data displayed as a proper grid with each tile pulling. Rumbud here. In this video, we'll look at the border widget in Unreal Engine UI and see how you can use it to wrap border widget. This is Rumbud. Today we're going hands-on with the scroll box or Unreal Engine UI tutorial. This is Rumbud. Layout contains is essential to building flexible and responsive interface. Let's be honest. Most Unreal Engine beginners do not fail because Unreal Engine is impossible. They fail because they start with the wrong project, with the wrong mindset, and with no realistic plan. At the beginning, everything feels exciting. You open Unreal Engine, create a new project, add a character, maybe download a few assets, maybe create a forest, add a weapon, add one enemy, test some animations, and suddenly it feels like you're making a real game. But that feeling can be dangerous, because starting a game is not the same as building a game, and building a game is not the same as finishing one. A project can look impressive in the first few days, and still be completely broken under the surface. The character moves, but the movement feels weak. The weapon fires, but the combat has no feedback. The enemy follows the player, but gets stuck everywhere. The health system works once, but breaks when you add more enemies. The user interface looks fine, but it is not connected cleanly to the gameplay. This is where most beginners start losing control of the project. Not because they are stupid, not because they have no talent. They lose control because they confuse visible progress with real progress. A beautiful screenshot is not a game. A character running inside a marketplace environment is not a game. A few copied systems placed inside one project are not a game. A real game needs structure, rules, feedback, balance, testing, and a clear finish line. That is the part beginners usually underestimate. The first enemy of every Unreal Engine beginner is scope. They do not start with a small, complete game. They start with an open-world, survival, role-playing, multiplayer, crafting, base-building shooter with advanced enemy AI, vehicles, quests, inventory, weather, and maybe dragons because apparently pain was not enough. That is not a first project. That is a professional studio nightmare. The harsh truth is that smaller does not always mean simple. A small open world is still an open world. A small multiplayer game is still multiplayer. Hidden work, saving, loading, edge cases, user interface, testing, balancing, edge cases, user interface, testing, balancing, performance, animation, sound, input, collision, and bug fixing. Beginners usually see the fun part of the feature, but they do not see the maintenance cost behind it. That is why their projects grow fast, then collapse even faster. Tutorials are useful, but tutorials can also become a trap. I make tutorials, so I am not saying tutorials are bad. The problem is when beginners use tutorials as a replacement for thinking. They watch one tutorial for movement, another for shooting, another for inventory, another for enemy AI, another for stamina, another for save games, then they throw all of them into one project and expect everything to work together. It usually does not. Every tutorial has its own assumptions, different variable names, different class structure, different. Where do I plug this node? That difference matters. If you only copy, you stay dependent. If you understand the system, you can adapt it, fix it, and connect it to the rest of your game. The same problem happens with asset packs. Marketplace assets can be great. They can save time, improve visuals, and help you prototype faster. But they can also lie to you. A beautiful environment makes you feel like your game is more complete than it really is. A professional-looking character makes you feel like your project is moving forward. A weapon pack makes you feel like you have a combat system. But visuals are not gameplay. A pretty forest with no purpose is not a level. A beautiful character with bad controls is still bad gameplay. A powerful-looking weapon with no impact feedback is still weak combat. This is where beginners get fooled. They build surface progress instead of real progress. They keep adding assets, effects, and visual polish, but the core loop is still weak. The player moves, shoots, interacts, wins, loses, restarts, and understands the goal. That is the core. If that core is not working, more assets will not save the project. They will only hide the problem for a while. An ugly prototype with a strong loop is more valuable than a beautiful map with no game inside it. That is the truth beginners do not want to hear, but they need to hear it. Another major reason beginners never finish is bad architecture. Many people blame Blueprint, but Blueprint is not the real enemy. Bad structure is the enemy. You can write clean systems in Blueprint, and you can write complete garbage in C++. The language will not save you from bad decisions. If your character blueprint controls movement, weapons, health, inventory, user interface, enemy detection, saving, loading, audio, mission logic, and random door behavior, your project is already sick. Maybe it still runs today, but every new feature will make it worse. Clean projects need separation. A health system should behave like a health system. A weapon system should behave like a weapon system. The user interface should listen to important gameplay events, not control the whole game. Enemy AI should not depend on messy logic hidden inside the player character. When everything talks to everything, the project feels fast at the beginning, then becomes a prison later. You change one small thing and 5 other things break. That is when beginners say Unreal is buggy. Sometimes the engine has bugs, yes, but many times the real bug is the project structure. Perfectionism is another killer. Some beginners keep restarting because they think they are improving the foundation. They make movement, then restart because they saw saw a better tutorial. They make inventory, then restart because they found a cleaner method. They make enemy AI, then restart because maybe behavior trees are better. After months, they have learned a lot but shipped nothing. This feels productive, but often it is just fear. When a project is unfinished, it can still be perfect in your imagination. When it is finished, people can judge it. They can say the combat is weak, the level is boring, the UI is confusing, or the game is not fun. That hurts. So some beginners stay forever in preparation mode. They keep rebuilding systems, changing art direction, changing camera style, changing genre, and telling themselves the real project will start soon. No. At some point, you need to finish something small and imperfect. That is how you become a real developer. Not by restarting forever, not by planning forever, by finishing. So what should Unreal Engine beginners do instead? Start smaller than your ego wants. Then, go even smaller. Build one level, one player mechanic, one enemy type, one win condition, one lose condition, one menu, and one complete loop. That is enough. For example, make a simple arena survival game. The player spawns, enemies come in waves, the player shoots, enemies die, the player survives as long as possible, the score goes up, the player dies, and the game can restart. That sounds simple, but if you actually finish it properly, you will learn movement, combat, AI, health, user interface. Someone play it without explaining everything. That will teach you more than pretending to build an open world for 6 months. Your first finished game.
Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. In this video I want to basically give you guys information on how to make an interaction component. So how can you make an interaction component that's easily reusable, whether it's a first person or third person game, to interact with any type of object in the world. And what we're also going to act is that the object can basically determine what it wants to say to the player. So if I look at this object and it were to be a door, then it could say press E to open the door. If this object here were to be something that I could sim engine, yeah, print and then blueprint interface to here blueprint. So this widgets, but and this border in it is gonna basically box and here on itself nothing. Also here pick it up. So in this kind, and we're gonna that looks good to me. Then this logic. And then here T, and then it's gonna branch. You can also just drag off here and type in branch. It's the same. And then we're going to be setting the visibility for this widget based on the visibility. B and left click to get a branch. You can also just drag off here and type in branch. It's the same. So if it hit testable, so set text. So whenever we want this widget to be visible, we're going to set the interaction text to this interaction image. It compiles to call it, and we're going to interaction direct to return to get a reference of a widget. The next is the widgets that are currently visible on your screen. Well, we don't only want to get those whenever we want to get a reference of widget. We also just want to get references of widgets that might be collapsed, for example. This widget class, we're going to plug it straight into this one over here. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to drag out of this array and we're going to type in is not empty. And then so trigger your read if we to our timeout. So we're going to get this reference line trace by object that we need. The reason that we do this validation here server, then we see here our server on the right, it says it here on top, and our client here on the left. So now if the client or the server, so server walks up to it, presses E, we see it turning into a ball. And then if the client walks up to it, presses E, we also see it turning into that ball. So there you go. So obviously you can code any interaction event that you like, but this is the basic setup of how you can set up interaction for your multiplayer game or single player game. I hope you guys liked it. If you want to see more of these types of videos, then
a streamer and his viewers rated me, clipped me dying, and made fun of me on Twitter. 20.
Hi guys, and welcome back to a new video. In this video I want to show you guys how you can work with modular UI so that you can make widgets that you can reuse in other widgets without having to make custom elements per widget each time and copy pasting them. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to make some core widget. You can also call it a base widget, and in this example it's going to be a button, and then I'm going to show you how you can make this base button and reuse that throughout your entire project, and how you can make certain parameters in this button exposed so that you can change them from within another widget. So let's go ahead and set that up. So what I got over here is a blank project with an empty map. So I called this an example level. And then inside of the example level, I got some logic to set up our widget blueprint main menu. All I did is create a widget and I called it main menu. And as you see, it has nothing in here yet. So the only thing that we then do is that inside of the example level, you go to the level blueprint, and then so far I have added the widget to the viewport. So to do that, you type get player controller, and then you type in create widget. Then you select the widget, the main menu, and then you drag off of here and you type in add to viewport. And then after that, drag off of your player controller reference again and set show mouse cursor to true. So type here set show mouse cursor and put it to true. All right. So if you have, for example, a main menu, then obviously inside of a main menu, you would have something like a canvas panel, and then you perhaps would have some text, and that text could say something like main menu. And then inside of a main menu, you might have buttons here. That's very typical. So one could say host game, one could say find game, one could say settings, and one could say quit. Now, what you could do, and what most beginners in our engine would probably do, is that they would simply, inside of this widget blueprint main menu, drag in a button and then start to stylize it. So they would basically set up normal, hovered, pressed, and disabled with their own images and stuff in here. They would set up like a sound when you click it, etc., etc. And then they would also drag some text in here. And then basically they would probably select that button, size it to the content, and style it the way they like it. So this could then say host games, just as an example, right? And then they would copy paste this button here and do the same over again. And then if they want to change on the last button, on the quit button, if they want to change the font size to something smaller, they would also manually do that over here. And then if they click the button, so if you select the button, they would then code all of the on-clicked events simply inside of the graph over here off of this on-clicked event on that custom button here. But what I want to teach you here is how to do this in a modular way, so that you have to style your button once, how you can then basically parameterize certain of these elements, such as the text and the color here, for example, and how you can forward on-clicked events, so that you have to work with one main base button throughout your whole project. And then you can also use this concept for other UI as well. So to do this, let's go ahead, delete this button and set one up. So we're going to do widget blueprint user widget, and then here we're going to type WB, which stands for widget blueprint, and let's call this our base button. And then inside of the base button, we see that there's nothing in here yet. So the first thing we're going to do is drag in a button, and then we're going to double click it and rename it to simply say button. And we're going to put some text in here. And obviously you see that this is very big right now, but then if you click here on fill screen and desired, then you see what the actual size of the button would be on your screen. So the first thing that we want to do is that we want to have this text be modular. So what I mean by that is, well, we're going to make it a variable so that in runtime we can set the actual content of the text and the size of it from this widget instead of doing it in here. So the first thing that we want to do is that this text is something that we want to be able to change on this button. So let's call this button text underscore text, and then we make this a variable. And then let's go directly to the graph now and show you how you can make this modular. So drag in your text and then drag off of it and say set text. And then here we can set the text. Now you can do this on event construct. That means that you set the text whenever you hit play. You can also do it on event pre-construct, which means that it happens when you click compile, and then you can already see the change here. So if right now I hit compile, we set the button text to empty, and then this text over here will change. So look, I click compile, save, and then it's empty. So that's the text that we want to change in runtime, but we want to change it from wherever we implement this base button or this base UI element. And just understand, this is just an example, right? So if you understand this concept, you can apply this to your entire project. So let's go ahead and drag off of this text and promote it. And then we're going to call this the button text. And then we're going to compile it and set the default value in here. So let's all call this button text is our default value. And then right now, in order to make it modular, we have to click here on instance editable and exposed on spawn. And as soon as we did that, we see that now inside of the main menu widget, we can drag in this button. So if you scroll all the way down, we can drag in this base button over here, and you can drag in another one. And then we see that if we select these buttons, well, first of all, it's only one little element here inside of this hierarchy panel right now. So it's no longer your whole button with your text inside of it and perhaps an image. No, it's just this neat single element here. And then you see that this one, you can now click it. And because we made that one parameter exposed on spawn and instance editable, we can now adjust the text here off of this button in runtime. So we can have this guy say host game. And then you see that it changes in runtime, and that's because we hook it up to pre-construct. And then this one we can say find games. So you see that this is already modular right now. And now, yeah, you want to, for instance, do more stuff. So you want to have more parameters in here. So you can also click on the button and then, for example, say, let's say that we want to change the font size as well. So basically you have to think to yourself, what are the parameters that I want to be able to adjust on this base class? And those you need to basically expose on spawn and make instance editable. So right now let's do font size. So the size over here. So we're just going to drag in the button text again, and we're going to say set font. And then we get this little function in Unreal, and then we can drag off here. We can make a slate info. And this is the info that already pops up for us when we select the text over here. So now we can adjust all of this text in from within other widgets as well when we make these variables exposed on spawn and instance editable. So for example, well, first of all, we need to set the font family. So let's select Roboto. If it doesn't show up, click here, Engine Content, Roboto. And then we want to make this font size here modular. So right click, promote variable, and let's call this font size. And then here we can click on instance editable and exposed on spawn, hit compile, save, and you see that by default it's set to 24. So because we did this right now, because this one has now got this little eye and so does this one, now we see that over here we can also adjust the font size as an extra parameter. So we could make this guy a little bit smaller. So we can make this guy 16 and this guy be 24. And you can go on and on like this. And this is basically how you can make modular UI. So now instead of having a million custom buttons inside of all of your widgets, you only have your base button to work with. And then you just use that one inside of your widgets. And then you can make sure that all of your styling is extremely streamlined. Because if you once style this class, then all of your classes will neatly be streamlined with the same style as the base class. So that is very handy to use. I use it myself in all of my projects this way. And yeah, you can always select this button here and then rename it to give it a name that is more clear. So this would be our host game button. And this one over here would be our find games button. And then obviously you want to be able to click this button and then code it. So previously you would just drag in a button, you would scroll down and do on clicked and you would get an event and then you can code your logic. So how do you do that for these guys that are modular? Well, you go back inside of the base button and then essentially what you have to do is that you have to forward the clicked event that is existing on this button. So if you scroll all the way down, you see on clicked. So first of all, click that to get it here inside of the graph. And then what we want to do is, yeah, we want to forward this. So the way to do that is with an event dispatcher. We basically dispatch an event. And the event that we want to dispatch is the button click. So let's create one and then give it a logical name. So call it something like on clicked, because that's what this is. And now we can forward on clicked by dragging it in and then clicking on call. So basically what this does is forwards the clicked event. it dispatches it. That's what it means. So when we click this guy, we send a message to whoever implemented this widget that it has been clicked. And now what you will see is if you now go back here to the main menu widget and click on your own self-made custom base button, then you see that if you select it, scroll all the way down, that your onClicked event appears over here. And you can do that with other things as well. So if you select your actual button here again, so back inside of the base button, you can also say onHoovered, right? So if we want to forward this guy too, well, you guessed it, you can simply call onHoovered. Boom. And then you could say onHoovered, boom, go in here, boom, and then compile, save, go back here. And now you'll see onClicked and onHoovered appeared. And because these are now here, we can now say, okay, onClicked, we want to do this. And then for find games, we also want to do an onClicked event. And then we can say, well, that now you can code your custom logic here and still make use of your base button that has one and the same similar beautiful styling. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial. I can show you with a print string that it works. So here we can do a host game. And then when we click the find games, we want to show find games. And then if I hit play, we'll see the two buttons. So it says host games and it says find games. Alright, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. Also, be sure to check out our Patreon. You can download an awesome example project there, which is full of multiplayer features and functionality. Also, please be sure to check out our Unreal Engine marketplace. We make beautiful full multiplayer templates. So if you're interested in that and interested in speeding up your Unreal Engine development journey, then be sure to go ahead and check that out. Alright, guys, see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Brew? And that's a 6.
Hey, watch this.
Oh, 6! Amazing! Oh, wait.
Now you try.
Cricket. Love. Brew cold coffee. Order now.
Hello guys, Wim here, welcome back to a new video. In today's video I want to cover a very common topic, and that is how can you make aim offset in your game. So when we hit play here, we have a character here. It just does an idle animation that moves forward, and it just uses the movement from the third person project. So let's go ahead and make sure that this guy can now look up and down, and that the guy then responds to the aim offset. So the way that we're going to do that is that first of all you're going to need some assets. So I myself got this blocky character here. I got this animation for idle and running, and then in here I got my 3 aim offset animations. And the important thing is that these animations are all 1 frame. So if you look over here, you see that this is basically just 1 frame and that's it. And then the way that I named them is that I say AS, which stands for animation sequence, and then AO, and then we got 3 of them. So we want 1 for down, 1 for center looking, and 1 for up looking. And it is important that you also know where your idle animation is, because we are going to set up the aim offset with a preview animation in there which runs off of your idle animation. So the first thing you're going to want to do is inside of the folder where you will have your aim offset animations, you are going to have to right click and then you go over to animation and then find yourself the aim offset. Now you can make aim offset that also is directional, so that means you can also lean left and right, but in this example over here this is one directional because it's only on the pitch up or down basically. So we are going to select the aim offset 1D and then select your skeleton, and then let's call this something like aim offset 1D blocky, because blocky is my character here. So I'm going to open this guy up. And then over here we are going to have to set this up with all of the aim offsets. But before we can drag the aim offsets in here, we need to adjust them a little bit. So the first thing that I want to do is go into each of these and adjust them the way that they need to be adjusted. So let's start by opening up the down animation here. So what you're going to want to do is scroll down here to the additive settings and then click it from additive to mesh space, and then select the skeleton reference pose and switch that to selected animation frame. And then over here it asks you for an animation frame, and that is going to be your base frame, and the base frame is always going to be the center one. So even though this is down, we are now going to select the center one just like this, and then if you go ahead and click the little arrow here, then this one is set up correctly. Go ahead and save. Then we're going to do the up one. So also scroll down to additive, make it mesh space, this one, set it to selected animation frame, then select your center and select it over here, hit save, and then do center itself. So also over here, mesh space, selected animation frame, select center and plug it in here. There you go. Hit save and that's it. Now we can put these three inside of here. So when you open up this aim offset file, then you want to go here to horizontal axes, and this you want to name your pitch, because we're going to be looking up and down. And then the pitch is going to be from -90 to 90, and we can make it a grid division of 2, and then we can set it to snap. You see we have a grid here on the left, in the middle, and on the right. So what we're going to do is -90 will be down, center will be here in the middle, and up will be here on the right 90 degrees. And then you see that your character gets removed here, so you don't see your character. And then what you want to do here is what I mentioned earlier. You want to set up your idle pose in here. So if you then go ahead and locate your normal idle animation, select it, then you can plug it in here, and then your character should appear again. Then you can hit save. And then to preview if the aim offset works, you can hold Control and scroll like this. So now you see that this guy is starting to look down, up, and in the middle, which means that we correctly set up this aim offset. Now all we have to do is add this aim offset to the animation blueprint, and then make sure that animation blueprint can basically read the pitch so that it can work. So right now we can go ahead and close this aim offset, and then go ahead and locate your animation blueprint. So for me, I got it over here, ABP Blocky. Open that one up, make sure you go to the event graph. You can also go there by double clicking here. And then you should have some logic that looks like this. So on event blueprint initialize animation, you want to get the owning actor of this animation blueprint, cast to the character class, save that, also get the character movement component, and then on tick here. So that means event blueprint update animation. You want to validate that character, and then, well, for one, this is just for my basic animation logic. We want to get some ground speed, so that's my logic over here. But now to get the pitch, we are going to make a sequence here. So hold S and left click. So let's hook this up. And then I'll run you through it real quick. So basically from that character reference that we have over here, we want to get the base aim rotation and then the actor aim rotation. We then want to have a delta rotator. So you get one by typing delta rotator, and here it pops up just like this. Then you want to split this value over here. So right click it and hit split struct. And then the Y value, which is the pitch, is the one that we want to store as a variable here. After we got this variable here from the event graph, we then want to go ahead and set up our animation graph with this aim offset. So if we then go to the animation graph, we can find ourselves this here. So this is my basic state machine, and here we have the output pose. And then what we want to do is in between our state machine, which runs all of our locomotion logic, then in between here we now want to drag in our aim offset here. And then you want to put your state machine logic in here. This should contain your locomotion, and this one then goes into the result. And then for the pitch over here, we are going to drag in the pitch and plug that in just like this. Then if you go ahead, hit compile and save, you'll see that this line pops up here. And that's basically it. So now if we go ahead and hit play, then see if I look down, the character will start to look down like this. And if I look up, you can see that the character will start to look up. So right now, yeah, the basic third-person character does not allow me to control the character like that I wanted to strafe, for example. So, but you do see that the aim offset goes up and the aim offset.
How many times have you tried developing a UI system only to find it getting messy over time? Maybe you end up with a monolithic master widget that touches every part of the codebase, and changing one thing breaks many. Or
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, you want to add Steam to your Unreal Engine multiplayer game? Not a problem. In the next few minutes,
I'm gonna do some wrestling again, even though.
The guy, he cannot listen, he cannot speak, but he wrestles here. He's going to
Love,
Japan.
respect,
He's going
respect,
to Japan.
respect.
He
Respect,
cannot
bro.
speak, he cannot listen, but he's representing India and going to Japan.
He's good at wrestling?
Yeah.
He has no choice, right?
Yeah.
He has no choice but to be good. God bless you. Good to meet, bro. So he can't listen and he can't hear, he can't speak. He got no choice but to win them fights, chat. I'm gonna do some wrestling again, even though.
The guy, he cannot listen, he cannot speak, but he wrestles here. He's going to
Love,
Japan.
respect,
He's going
respect,
to Japan.
respect.
He
Respect,
cannot
bro.
speak, he cannot listen, but he's representing India and going to Japan.
He's good at wrestling?
Yeah.
He has no choice, right?
Yeah.
He has no choice but to be good. God bless you. Good to meet, bro. So he can't listen and he can't hear, he can't speak.
Is because if you are a developer using Unreal Engine and maybe you're just getting into things and you're not aware of what I'm about to explain to you, I'm willing to bet that your character blueprint variable